Sent from Disneyland, history in our hand. So much to say about yesterday and the decades we have spanned. Postcards from the park, this journey will embark. See what has changed and what remains on Sent from Disneyland. Sent from Disneyland.
Welcome to the Sent from Disneyland podcast.
Here age relives fond memories of the past.
If it's your first time joining us, welcome. On this podcast, we'll take a journey into the past and explore Disneyland, Disneyland history, and more, with mementos, snapshots, souvenirs, and postcards sent from Disneyland, from 1955 to the present. Let's start by thanking my patrons from patreon.com. You can join in at any level to support the show and receive snail mail from my trips to Disneyland and from my desk, plus some sneak peeks and bonus content. Special thanks to Random Olive, the first patron to this podcast, and to the rest of the e-ticket patrons, to Nia, Eric Daniels, Monica Seitz Vega, Scott Cagle, Russ Romano, Michael and Christina Cross, and Sheila Harry. C-ticket patrons Serious Inquiries Only, Debbie Weinstein, Jennifer Schneep, Angela Reynolds, Grace Coate, Patty Wolin, and Ben and Noel Bruning. B-ticket patron Joshua Bell, and to the A-ticket patrons Elise Sharp, Zealot Infinity, Alexis Robles, Angel DeBlock, and the Beyond the Railroad podcast. I am your host, your post-host Clocky, and today we have 2 postcards sent from Disneyland. The front of our first postcard has a jungle cruise passing by the backside of water. If you look closely, you can read the boat's name is the Nile Princess. On the back it reads, Schweitzer Falls, Adventureland. An explorer's boat carries guests under beautiful Schweitzer Falls on a jungle cruise down the misty Amazon, the murky Mekong, the Belgian Congo, and through the swirling rapids of the Nile in Disneyland's Adventureland. It's postmarked August 25, 1968, with the San Diego Always Use a Zip Code cancel and a 6-cent Franklin D. Roosevelt postage stamp, Scott number 1284. I assume they visited the park on Saturday, August 24, 1968, when park hours were from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. The weather was a high of 98 and a low of 61. It's addressed to Mrs. R.E. Jackson of Nehalem, Oregon. It reads, Dear Babe, got down here okay. So hot. Went to Disneyland yesterday with Jerry and family. He seems like a nice fellow. Don't see how she got him. Much younger. And kids seem to like him. Mr. Jer was very nice. Girls have gone to church. Girls are same as usual, and sunny. Okay, I hope he'll settle down and be content when he's back. He gave me lots of loving. Can tell you more when I see you. Bye-bye, sis. I thought this week it would be fun to look at a few postcards that had a lot of writing and information on them. This particular one is interesting because it suggests to always use a zip code on the postmark, but the only address information listed is Mrs. R.E. Jackson, Nehalem, Oregon. Looking up information about Nehalem, Oregon, in the 1960s, there would have been less than 250 people living in the city limits. Even as of the 2020 census, the population there is only 270. The city has only one traffic signal. The original post office was founded in 1870 and moved to Onion Peak in 1884, and then was moved once more in 1893 when the residents wanted the post office to be closer to the center of the town. Their zip code is 97131. Sis, the sender of the postcard, would have had a great time at Disneyland. 1968 would have had the new Tomorrowland in full swing, with the new Mark III monorails running, plus Pirates of the Caribbean would have been open for just over a full year. Add some flair to your mail by checking out stamps at Enfield Post. You can explore different stamp options on our Etsy site, grab some great deals by following EP Sunday Sales on Instagram, or create something special and have her design a stamp array for your invitation or celebration. You can head over to EnfieldPost.com and explore all the different vintage postage stamps you can use on your next card or letter. That's ENFIELDPOST on Instagram and EnfieldPost.com for your wedding and vintage postage needs. Enfield Post is the official postage stamp sponsor of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. The front of our next postcard has Mickey and Minnie Mouse standing in front of the Main Street Flower Market when it was next to the market house. On the back it reads, The flower of his eye. Ever the gentleman, Mickey pauses with Minnie at the Main Street Flower Market to present her with this gift from the heart. It's postmarked June 8, 1980, with a Seattle, Washington, always use a zip code cancel, and a 10-cent We Hold These Truths Jefferson Memorial postage stamp, Scott number 1510. Let's assume they visit the park on Friday, June 5th, 1980, when park hours were from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. The weather was a high of 73 and a low of 53. It's addressed to Edward F. Schmidt of Spokane, Washington. It reads, 6780. Dear Dad, thank you very much for the card and the very thoughtful and appreciated anniversary gift. We will use the dinner money for a very special celebration when school is out. Norma and I will have a quiet dinner out tomorrow night, then have our big celebration when school ends and the pressure lets up a little. Norma has several very important deals cooking now, and I have all my end-of-year papers and grading, so it's kind of tight right now. The kids are all doing fine and really busy now, but I look forward to lots of backyard cookouts and several other trips this summer. We still don't know when we'll be taking our princess cruise and may be going on very short notice. Love, write soon, H.E.S. Received June 9th, 1980. It's funny to run across a name that has received multiple postcards from Disneyland. Although this postcard was sent from Seattle to Spokane, Edward F. Schmidt postcards have been featured in 3 other Sent from Disneyland podcast episodes. Episode 209, Sent from City Hall, where the postcard was also sent from Seattle, and HES talked about having a cold and wishing his father a happy birthday and suggesting the Marco Polo TV series. Episode 73, Sent with Dime Postage, where HES was sending a postcard from Disneyland, updating his father about the current trip and what's new at Disneyland. The first time I used a postcard that HES sent to EFS was episode 63, Sent from the Grim Grinning Ghosts, where again, they were on vacation and mentioned the magic of the Haunted Mansion. Both the card from episode 63 and this one were sent within 6 weeks of each other. It's sometimes fun to piece together a narrative and interesting to see this family's preferred communication through postcards, as opposed to a long-distance phone call across the state. This particular postcard is filled with information. As I mostly collect Disneyland postcards, there may have been more postcards between this father and son from other places, maybe a handful of Knott's Berry Farm, San Diego, or Seattle postcards, and sent out either weekly, monthly, or as semi-regular correspondence. My incoming postcard is sponsored by the Art Throwdown. Art Throwdown, or ATD, is a craft hour on Instagram, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern or 6 Pacific. Art Throwdown is a wonderful community of artists who love to share their craft, from creating sticker postcards and coloring techniques to intricate paper cutting and unique crafting. It's always a treat to watch a show and occasionally get some one-of-a-kind postcards from the group. Each host brings something a little different to each show. I'll list some of the regular hosts, or you can follow Russ Romano 2021 on Instagram. The front of my incoming postcard is original artwork entitled Happy Haunts by artist Josie Tsao, and it's an image of a ghost horse pulling a hearse up the Haunted Mansion's driveway. You can see the hitchhiking ghost at the bottom and the Haunted Mansion singing bus towards the top. The Haunted Mansion is at the top of the postcard with a full moon behind it. If you look closely, you can see the caretaker and his dog near the graveyard on the right. It's postmarked February 3rd, 2025, with a Santa Ana cancel and a donkey piñata facing left forever postage stamp, Scott number 5815. It reads, February 2nd, 2025, Town Square, Mr. Lincoln mailbox. Insert spooky Haunted Mansion sound effects here. Hi Clocky, it's a Run Disney weekend here at the parks, and the crowds show it. It's fun to see runners showing off their medals and families clearly visiting from out of town. It's a beautiful day in the happiest place on earth. Sending some to you, Angela. Thank you so much for the postcard, Angela, and for giving me an opportunity to use the spooky sound effects from last week's episode and the record Chilling, Thrilling Sounds of the Haunted House. Last Saturday I attended a record swap and got a second copy of the record, which had the added bonus of spooky party hints inside. Inside the cardboard sleeve, there was an additional paper sleeve holding the record, filled with spooky party hints and spooky party games. The hint showed how to make different invitations, including one in the shape of a coffin, a bat, or a ghost. Suggested decorating the furniture with sheets, and using yellow, green, blue, and red 25-watt bulbs to give a low-key lighting effect. The games included Snow White's Apple on a String, a guessing game to guess the number of buttons, marbles, kernels of corn, coins, or other objects in a jar, a Toss the Ball game, a fortune teller game, and a word game, which included having your guess make up the most number of words from the word Halloween. Everything else about the record was exactly the same, although the copyright date on the inner paper sleeve says 1973 instead of 1964. Also, be sure to check out a recent addition to the Daps Magic YouTube page, where you can listen to a half hour of the new Haunted Mansion cue music while watching an empty section of the queue in the rain. I'll put a link in the show notes so that you can have it on in the background the next time you need some spooky ambiance. Thanks for listening to Sent from Disneyland. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. It would also help to leave a 5-star rating and comment on whatever podcast platform you use. If you'd like to support the show financially, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/sentfromdisneyland. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Sent from Disneyland or my website, sentfromdisneyland.com. For questions and comments, send me a postcard addressed to Sent from Disneyland, P.O. Box 44, Hood, California, 95639. This podcast is not affiliated with Disney, the United States Postal Service, or any post office or Disney-related properties. Opinions expressed on this podcast belong to the host and guests of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. This podcast is produced and edited by Clocky McDowell, website designed by Misty McDowell, theme song was written and performed by Noah Sunday Lefkowitz. Take it away, Noah.